Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So we're reading from the Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi-lila, chapter 11, text number 56. Is that right? Okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Beta Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Beta Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Beta Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Beta Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gunatimilandasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshalamanitamyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Text number 56. Sava Shaki Shrestha Virabhadra Gosani. Tanra Upashaka Yata Tara Antanai. Sava Shaki Shrestha Virabhadra Gosani. Tanra Upashaka Yata Tara Antanai. Sava Shaka Shrestha Virabhadra Gosani. Tanra Upashaka Yata Tara Antanai. Word for word. Sava Shaka Shrestha, the best of all the branches. Virabhadra Gosani, of the name Virabhadra Gosani. Tanra Upashaka, his sub-branches. Yata, all. Tara, of them. Anta, limit. Nai, there is not. Translation. Among all the branches of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Virabhadra Gosani was the topmost. His sub-branches were unlimited. Text 57. No one can count the unlimited followers of Nityananda Prabhu. I have mentioned some of them just for my purification. Text 58. All these branches, the devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, being full of ripened fruits of love of Krishna, distributed these fruits to all they met, flooding them with love of Krishna. Text 59. All these devotees had unlimited strength to deliver unobstructed, unceasing love of Krishna. By their own strength, they could offer anyone Krishna and love of Krishna. Now we have a purport, a small purport here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Krishna se tomara, Krishna diti para, tomara shakati ache. In this song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that a pure Vaishnava, as the proprietor of Krishna and love of Krishna, can deliver both to anyone and everyone he likes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is benedicted by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. By the grace of a Vaishnava or a bona fide spiritual master, one can get both love of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna himself. Now there's just to the end of the chapter and the end of this volume, there is just 2 more verses that don't have any purport, so we might just, to make it convenient and easy for the next speaker, we might just chant those verses. I have briefly described only some of the followers and devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even the 1,000-mouthed Sheshanaga cannot describe all of these unlimited devotees. With an ardent desire to serve the purpose of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrita following in their footsteps. So in this verse, this purport, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioned. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for anyone who doesn't know who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is the father. He's actually, his picture is here, right next to Prabhupada on the right, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he's the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And a very, very amazing personality. He entered household life, so he was a grihasta and had many children, maybe 11, maybe 12. And he was always in a state of lamentation. I suppose we should mention that he had a very strong personality and he preached Krishna consciousness very strongly. And if he had to chastise people or the smarter brahmanas, he would do it. He was not afraid, very bold. But at the same time, with his writings, with his bhajan, he always appeared to be in a state of lamentation, because the words that we just read, the translation, translate like this: I am indeed wretched, and simply run after you crying, Krishna, Krishna. So this is how he genuinely saw himself. And if you look at his bhajans and you read the translations, you'll see that they translate like this: I am a wicked materialist. Lust has wasted me away. When I examine myself, I can find nothing of value. Self-effacing, self-derogatory. But he meant it, he was true. Because, quite often we'll say like, oh, I'm a rascal, or, oh, don't listen to me, and we say that. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur laments like that, he's really very serious. And he very much understands the position of all the living entities in the material world, which is a horrendous situation, really, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. This is indicating here that it's very, very important to have a guide in this misdirected civilization. A true guide who genuinely has our welfare at heart and can help us through the trials and errors of the Kali Yuga and our life, however long or short that may be. That's what the Queen said. Anyone see that? However long or short my life is, I offer it in your service. So we need a guide. And of course in the Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse is Tadvidi pranipatena, parishpranena sevaya, upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. Just try to find out the truth. Because everyone being born into illusion from birth. Everyone is conditioned in so many ways. I mean, it's very interesting to think about all the different conditioning that we have. We take birth, we have parents, or not, but generally we have parents. And those parents rear us and teach us and live their lives in their houses, going to their jobs or whatever they're doing, whatever their occupation is. And everything that the child, even while the child is in the womb, the child is absorbing all the elements of life. That's why we used to be very keen many years ago, when a lot of the ladies were young and they were having babies, we would all get together, especially in Melbourne, the ladies, and we would read Srimad Bhagavatam, so that the baby, particularly in favour of the baby, so that the baby in the womb could hear the sound vibration, and that is very, very auspicious. But the thing is with birth these days for most people, for most children, is that the parents are usually, well, I'll call it unconscious. Unconscious. Because to be conscious means to have understanding, to know what's going on. But most people are unconscious. So with all of their unconsciousness, the baby is subject to that. And, you know, there's violence, drugs, especially, we spoke about this last time, especially this day and age. Most of the grandparents, a lot of grandparents are rearing their grandchildren because their children, who are the real mother and father, the child, they're in rehab. They have to go to rehab. And there's lots of rules in place now regarding this. You're forced to go to rehab. I learned over the weekend. I thought it was a voluntary thing. You're forced in as much that if you don't, then the family will be relocated, or you lose the house if it's a government house, and it makes it very difficult. And lots of people are coming through this situation. And even those that have a good job, maybe they have a good income, they are still very unconscious. And the reason for that is that we're trying to get out of ignorance, but most people are in ignorance. And the 5 types of ignorance which is mentioned are, number 1. Does anyone know the 5 types of ignorance? Number 1 is that one thinks the body to be the self. No idea that they're a spirit soul taking a journey in a material body. They take the body to be the self. Now, when you take the body to be the self, then naturally it's very difficult to lead a truly conscious life, because everything then, and let's not forget the mind, which is the subtle energy. That's material, but subtle. So being guided by the mind, with everything that's around us, all the harshness, all the cruelty. I mean, you've really got to think about the cruelty that people inflict one on another in different countries, not only on people and children and abuse, what to speak of the poor sentient animals, and especially the cows. So the body to be the self, and therefore my aim is to make this body and mind as comfortable as I possibly can. The next one is material pleasure is the be-all and end-all of everything. So we're just really working to get some money, to get some facility, so that we can eat what we want, so that we can drink what we want, so that we can go out and enjoy ourselves, buy whatever we want. That is the understanding, because material pleasure is the be-all. And then, of course, number 3 is anxiety due to material identity. And you know, how some people suffer with that, the material identity. A huge amount of people are very dissatisfied with their identity, and many of them will change it or act in another way. It's very surprising these days to the new age and the things that people are doing now and coming up with, the ideas they're coming up with, is one I heard not so long ago was non-binary. Does everyone know that? If you're young, you probably know that. Yeah. I'm old, I miss out on a lot of things, but I picked up on this non-binary. So non-binary is, you don't have a gender. You don't want to be a male or a female. So people have a lot of trouble in so many ways with their identity. Anxiety due to material or they feel they don't fit in, or they don't belong, or so many things give them stress. And then there's lamentation. Now there's always lamentation because people are fearful. And why are they fearful? Because they believe that they're the body and they don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. And of course you get the radio, the television, all the news is always, there's a war going on, so many people, so many being killed, so many refugees. It's a horror story, and it makes people anxious. But somehow or other, they get a lot of viewers. If they hype things up, it's like, oh, did you see what happened? Oh, did you? Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's totally freaked out, as we used to say. Don't never hear that expression these days. Does anyone say that these days? I'm freaked out. He was freaked out. Maharaj, remember that? Freaked out, always freaked out. Oh, I freaked out. Anyway, I think you know what I mean. So, freaked out. And then they're not accepting of the supreme absolute truth of God, because they're thinking there's something superior to God. Sometimes they think they're superior, and God is the order supplier, or something like that. So because of these 5 types of ignorance, we have the world that we have today. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, no, not the Bhagavad Gita, in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a verse, I always was very fond of this verse. Prayano, Payusha, Subhya, Kalivashmin, Jagajana, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagyu Padriti. And that translates like this. In this iron age of Kali, men have short lives. They are lazy, misguided. In this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are lazy, misguided, and above all, always disturbed. Unlucky, which is unfortunate. So unfortunate because of the things we've just spoken about. They don't have this knowledge, therefore they're trying to make their way through life to get as much enjoyment and pleasure and peace of mind as they can. And things are only getting worse. And we know, of course, that if you have a healthy mind, you generally will have a healthy body. But quite often, distress and anxiety of the mind creates, we always used to say to people, don't get upset, you'll get an ulcer. There's something we used to say many years ago. Take it easy. Don't get upset, you'll end up with an ulcer. Or you'll end up with something. Because that's how the mind is interacting with the body. We need to actually have change our biology by changing our mind, our consciousness. But the consciousness, unfortunately, is what drives everyone. So just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master and serve him and inquire nicely, because the spiritual master, if it's a bona fide spiritual master, and let's not forget that there are many bogus and have been many bogus gurus. The poor character, not good character. And coming out of India, especially, well, I think it still goes on. Bogus gurus, and trying to capture people and get some financial gain from them, but they're not actually bona fide. Because the bona fide spiritual master really wants to deliver the fallen conditioned souls, and they feel it within their heart. It is a sentiment within the heart. And this is something quite interesting, is that as devotees progress, they do tend to become, in progress in devotional life, through the practice of sadhana bhakti, they do become quite caring about others. Oh, you may have noticed that within your own journey. You start to care about others more than what I can achieve and how I can enjoy. You feel sorry, you want to help. And of course, Srila Prabhupada felt this on a very high level. That's why we have the story. It's been told many times, but the story when he was actually here in Melbourne, I think, when he walked past the golf course and saw the men playing golf. Was it? Yeah. A tear came to his eye. He was moved. He felt sadness. He said, look how they're wasting their time, wasting their life. And he was very caring. And that's the type of spiritual master that's required. Not somebody that will sell you a mantra. You buy the mantra, and then it's a Sanskrit word, or a couple of words, and then twice a day for 20 minutes, morning and afternoon, you can go in your room or go somewhere quiet, light a candle, and just repeat this mantra. Now, I'm sure it helped to stabilize people's minds a little bit, make them a little bit more peaceful, calm them down a little bit, because everyone's so edgy. But the thing that is required is true knowledge. That's what a bona fide guru gives, true knowledge, and very much has the interest of the disciple at heart, and is very, very pleased when the disciples follow very strictly. It should be actually one's life and soul to follow Guru's instructions, life and soul. It takes some determination, it takes some dedication, but that's why we have each other. That's why we have so many books to read, so many Krishna conscious activities, so that we can always be thinking about Guru and Krishna. According to the Bhagavad Gita, once we have pure knowledge, because there's all sorts of knowledge, but pure knowledge coming from the bona fide Guru, that actually burns up all our reactions to sinful activities. And our process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Most important of all, Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. That's why we're having our classes every day. Sometimes we hear the same thing. I like it. Why? Because we need to be reminded. We're forgetful. We're always forgetful. Especially the older you get, you can't even remember anyone's name. You get very forgetful. But we're all forgetful. And this is reminding us. That's why we have classes here every day. And sometimes in the evenings. To remember. That's why we have so many wonderful activities. And many people, unfortunately, have fallen prey to false gurus. I call them scams. You know, there's a lot of scams going around now. I got scammed 2 weeks ago. Anyone been scammed? I feel like, oh, yeah, but I'll admit it, I got scammed. Easy. It was just out of interest. It was linked the linked road. You know, you have a little sort of gadget on your car, and when you go through a toll road, it beeps, and then they take it out of your account. So I got this message to say, you missed this toll and you didn't pay it. Now, it was interesting how it coincided with the trip we made from one place to another up in Queensland, and we came across two roads. One of them, they were both toll roads, supposedly. One of them beeped and one of them didn't. So immediately that came into my mind. Oh, that's right, when we went up to, it was actually Prabhupada's appearance day. That's when we were up in Brisbane for a few days, Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. And so they got me. So I actually got the credit card out and gave the number very nicely, very obediently. And then I told my dear husband, and he said, it's a scam. And I said, oh, you guys are useful for something. So I got right onto the bank, and they made everything right. But anyway, people are so easily scammed, especially older people, and people are scammed by these gurus with such a desire, and especially if it's an easy path, you don't have to do anything. No problem. Don't do anything. Just give me a little, dakshin, and just say this word. But, and we did that ourselves in 1970 or 71. We did that, and it had a bit of a calming influence. But when we came to Krishna consciousness, which was 1973, early 1973, Adelaide, then we were introduced to the teachings of a bona fide guru, and immediately we were attracted and felt, although we did not necessarily like all the restrictions were a bit of a nuisance. We were young then. Yeah. So yeah, the interesting thing is, and it's explained in Bhagavad Gita, two little birds sitting on a branch, one in the heart, one is the witnessing bird, the other one is the spirit soul, and the spirit soul is peck, 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 taking advantage of the nutrients from the tree, and the other one is just sitting patiently, waiting and watching. And as soon as that witness bird sees that the pecking bird has some slight inclination to know what the hell is going on in life. What the hell? Why this? Why that? I've got questions. I need answers. But even just a smidgen of curiosity or desire to attain some knowledge, then the witness bird, which is the super soul Paramatma, will arrange for that living entity to meet a guru. And if you're serious, you'll meet a serious guru. So when we have the guru who takes us under their shelter, we have a debt of gratitude. And that debt of gratitude in particular is a great determination to follow his or her, these days, instructions. As best I can. Follow. This is very pleasing to Guru, and that's all the Guru wants really. Just a faithful devotee who will make a concerted effort to follow nicely. Of course, you have to have that much faith in the Guru that whatever he says you can accept that. But one shouldn't be blind. One should make inquiries, but sensible inquiries. Think about them. Maybe talk to another devotee. I've got a little issue here. What do you think? I'd like to ask. Then the Guru likes that. He likes inquiries. But at the same time, one must have an acceptance of this is guru and pure devotee of Krishna, and even some things I can't understand, I think I need to accept. I can't be arguing and quarreling. Just like in, I think it was 1975, when Neil Young went to the moon. Neil Armstrong, sorry, Neil Young. He's a yeah, okay. Music on my mind, is it? Yeah, music on my mind. Neil Armstrong, thank you. And Prabhupada was preaching. They didn't go to the moon. The moon is ethereal, and all these different planets, people can't just go there. I mean, on the sun, living entities have fiery bodies. That's how they exist there. All the different planets, people have a makeup of different molecules in order to live there. But actually there was one young man who was quite outraged, and he could not accept that. He could not accept that Prabhupada said no. And it was interesting because many years later, I saw a documentary, where the Americans actually were challenging that he had gone to the moon. Him and his crew had gone to the moon, but rather they'd gone out to the desert. What did they call it? The Nevada desert, and they rigged it all up and they tricked people like that. Well, they came up with that. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that unfortunately he couldn't accept Prabhupada's teaching on that, and he went away. So there has to be I know better. There can't be that, I know better. Oh, I'm not. Even if you're uncomfortable, you can make an inquiry, a real humble inquiry. I'm not quite sure about that. Can you please explain a little further, like that? So one who's very fortunate comes in contact with bona fide guru, and that's when their life really begins. Because up until that time, it's very stressful, mainly. I don't know too many people that can say, unless they're taking a lot of drugs. And there are many drugs, different types of drugs, and they can make people feel absolutely wonderful, sometimes for 20 minutes, and some others are for longer, for days. They're out of it for days, but it pays a terrible toll on the brain. It damages the brain. There's no doubt about that. That somehow people are so disturbed that they're willing to take that chance. No, it's not even a chance. It actually happens. Everyone's looking for peace, and they don't know where to find it. They look for it in places where they will never find peace. Peace, gain knowledge, and dispel illusion. You know, even Lord Caitanya, he actually became a disciple of Ishvara Puri. Very humble. And it's explained in Shastra that that was to set the example. Actually, there's a verse now. Whatever a great man does, common men follow. And whatever standards he accepts, all the world pursues. So you do get that. Whatever so-called great men do, you get a lot of followers, imitators. Sometimes not for the best. We were talking yesterday because we had a meeting. It was a Vaishnava care meeting. And we were talking about people who were psychotic. And you know, certain drugs make you psychotic. Bad experiences make you psychotic. And how people think they're Elvis. I met someone like that in Perth many, many years ago. And he took out his license. And what did his license say? Elvis Presley. on the license. And he was like, cool dude, Psychotic. He'd gone to the trouble of getting his license made up in the name of Elvis Presley. Like that. So a lot of that. So we need to bypass all of this craziness. We have to bypass. We've got to light up the world. That's our goal. That's what Prabhupada wanted us to do. Light up the world. Just by working on your own spirituality, following very nicely, and especially in a community, because everyone, somebody said last week, the temple is not a community of saints, it's a community of hospital patients. I like it. Because I know I've met people, and some people have come and they said, oh, I didn't expect that at the Hari, and she said this and he said that. I didn't expect that. And I have explained the hospital understanding. We're all here in different grades of sickness. Some of us are healthier, and those healthier ones, they help the sicker ones. And we're all just trying to become spiritual and realize our true identity. It's a hospital. Not that we're all saintly, and he shouldn't do that. And this is another interesting thing. I mean, in this iron age of quarrel, this age is described as quarrel. And even within our own communities and between ourselves, we have quarrel. Or people that irritate us, or people we don't approve of, or people we don't like that. And it can cause havoc, and it can cause people to want to move away from the situation. But really, if you think about it, everybody, as I said in the beginning of the talk, is conditioned from within the womb to be the way they are. That is sort of enforced on them through their environment and through their parents. Not that we blame the parents. We get too many people say, well, I blame my parents. Well, your parents are only subject to what they learned and heard from their parents. Oh, well, we'll blame the grandparents. No. They're subject to their, and so on. It goes like that. And if you have this further understanding that everyone is acting from their own capability of what they're capable of doing or being, or not everyone can rise up to the standard which we expect or demand even. You treated me like that, she treated me like that. Not that we're here to be unhappy and to put up with a lot of nonsense, no. But when you think about forgiveness, which is very much a trait of a purified person, have a lot of forgiveness. Lord Chaitanya had a lot of forgiveness. He was actually so humble. He used to actually associate with all the sannyasis in Benares. And they were very learned because they studied Vedanta. And they were so learned and knowledgeable. And he would just sit to one side, or sometimes sit in an unclean place. And just said, but he was effulgent. They could see the other sannyasis, the impersonalists, they could see his effulgence. And they would say, no, come. And why aren't you studying Vedanta? And he simply said, I am chanting Hare Krishna. That is, thank you, but this is what my guru taught me, and I'm chanting Hare Krishna. And in that way, in due course of time, purification will come. If we particularly try to avoid the 10 offenses, blaspheme the devotees, disobey the order of the spiritual master, we say the 10 offenses every morning. So this path that we've chosen, we need just patience and perseverance. Patience and perseverance. Because what else is there? What else is there? What's the option? What kind of option have we got? And we help each other and try to be tolerant with each other, try to be forgiving, try to be understanding, and we can help change the world. The more people that are conscious can help the world become more conscious. And someone said to me last week, yes, I find, actually it was a Buddhist lady who was into meditation, and we were having a discussion, and she said, I'm finding in my teachings, and she was a teacher, very active, elderly lady, and she said, and I'm finding more and more people are becoming conscious, and more people want to quiet the mind. So at the end of the day, we're getting close to 8:30, we just think about Bhagavad Gita, we think about, I think it's 18th chapter, Mannana Bhavamad Bhakto, Majjidimam Namaskuru, Mamevasyasam Satyante, Pratijani Priyosime. 1865, I think, where Krishna's saying, just think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer respects to me, and surely such a person is very dear to me. And that is what we are striving for, to become very dear and very pleasing to Guru, and subsequently very dear and pleasing to Lord Krishna. So it looks like we've run out of time here. So if anyone has any comments they'd like to share or ask, or we can spend a few minutes to do that. Another thing, actually, I'll make a comment here. Another thing that when we're in a pretty wretched state when we come to Krishna consciousness, many of us. I've seen actually a lot of unfortunate people, homeless. In Adelaide, I'm talking about many years ago in Adelaide, homeless, hungry. I can remember one boy that came, very dishevelled and very hungry, and he couldn't stop eating, and then he slept for days. And then the temple president, who was Chaitanya Prabhu at the time, I said, who's this? And he said, well, he's been on the road for 5 days and he hasn't eaten or slept properly in 5 days. And I remember that boy came, and then after just a few days, he was very clean. Of course, he was subject to our Krishna conscious teachings. He was very clean, he was very bright, he was very active, and what an amazing change, and that was in such a short time. What to speak if we're doing it, making sure that we're keeping on the straight and narrow for many, many years. That was just a few days, really, a week or something like that. He was a different persona altogether. And we go from being wretched to Brahminical, actually, Brahminical. Devotees take Brahman initiation, second initiation, Brahminical. And what are the qualities of a Brahmana? Sama, Danas, Tapas, Socham, Shanti, Ajivan, Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikam, Brahma, Kamas, Prabhavajam. Peacefulness, tolerance, cleanliness, forgiveness, all of these wonderful qualities that we've spoke about, some of them. This is what we are acquiring, we want to acquire, and we will acquire. We just have to keep hearing. Jai. Thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. All glory to the assembled devotees.